I'm going to say that Daria has been with us several times. She's about to join this club. She always brings an interesting perspective. She's enthusiastic. Her command of the language is magnificent. And I am quite anxious to hear what she's putting together here for us, how she's going to help us learn some new things today. Daria, would you like to take the floor?
Thank you very much, President John. Toastmasters, you're in for a treat today. As educators, we have all interfaced with students at one time or another and are able to tell stories of how our students relate to our educational techniques. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to be looking at educational reform and its necessity or appropriateness for the times and the students we seek to develop. And we're seeking to develop them into fine, refined, capable citizens taking over tomorrow's world. We have a delight today, a panel of educators and administrators all. We will try not to confabulate too much. Ryan Dale, an educator who believes he has been called to the profession to be a catalyst for change. He's currently employed by the Department of Education Services in the Cayman Islands, assigned as Deputy Principal for Red Bay Primary School. Welcome, Ryan Dale.
Thank you for having me, Daria.
Lizette Hawthorne Wilson has a few philosophies. There is always a way, and she insists we will not stop climbing until we reach the summit. She's in charge of the Department of Music at the University College in Central Jamaica. Welcome, Lizette Hawthorne Wilson.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Delamay has been a chair of the Natural and Life Sciences at COSTAT, the College of Science, Technology, and Applied Arts of Trinidad and Tobago. She's been an educator in higher education for over 10 years. Welcome, Delamay.
Thank you for having me here today to confabulate.
Now, folks, we've heard the term education reform bandied about the place throughout the Caribbean for the last few years, if not decade. Ryan, what would you say is the term about? Where did it come from? Why is it necessary? What is education for in the Caribbean? Are we thinking along the lines of educating for our people, or is it something we just imported?
Or thank you, Daria, for this opportunity to confabulate with you guys. Now, the word reform means to make change. And in the context of education reform, it is to change the way we do things. And as you know, we operate in a global village. The world is now a global village. And as educators, the curriculum must be transcribed in such a way that it is meeting the demands of not only the Caribbean, but allowing our children in the Caribbean to be competitive citizens on the global stage. Now, change is inevitable in the global village in which we operate for numerous reasons. Some of these are to keep up with the competition, whether or not we like it. I'm from Jamaica, but and you have other children from Jamaica or other parts of the Caribbean, but they want to compete or get enrolled in universities across the world. And that's where the competition comes in. If they're not equipped with the necessary skills to compete on the national or global stage, they're not going to be accepted in these Ivy League universities or universities from the first world. Now, to be contributors, we want our children to be contributors, valuable contributors of society. And the curriculum must be that catalyst. Also, to reflect current ideology. Now, the world is changing. And with technology comes change by the second. The curriculum must provide our students with opportunities to think critical, to go beyond the realm of the classroom and to use education as a platform to develop jobs that are yet to be even named. And the curriculum must be designed to meet that need for future leaders. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ryan. Comprehensive and concise. Now, Delamay, what is your view of education reform?
Well, in terms of the tertiary educational landscape that I am on, I also concur with Ryan in terms of being able to adapt our curriculum to not only meet 21st century needs, but to meet societal needs in general. I think we are seeing the great need for adaptability and flexibility within the last year, not only in the Caribbean, but also internationally with the pandemic that we're all experiencing. We have had to quickly not only change and transfer things online, but in transferring online, we now have to adapt our curriculum to be in an online setting. And a lot of our faculty members had to do that on the fly. We've had to retrain them to ensure that they got the necessary training, not only in the technology, but in the pedagogical concepts that are needed to teach in an online environment. And that was a very big change, transformation, or reform, if you want to call it that, on a national level. From secondary school go down, or Ministry of Education is in the process of collecting information, holding town hall meetings in an attempt to redesign how curriculum is delivered and how school operates on a whole. The entire school system has to be reviewed if we are going to maintain the social distancing mechanisms that are in place right now. And so I think in general, reform and change and transformation is needed. I think that we are in the midst of a very unique situation as educators right now that has to be mentioned as well.
Wonderful, Delamay. Thank you for the contribution. Concise again, and talking to the need for secondary and tertiary transformations at that time, at this time. So Ryan has introduced the primary, Delamay has spoken to the secondary and tertiary. Lizette, you have a very unique perspective. Tell us what you think of educational reform in the Caribbean at this time.
Thank you for asking. Educational reform. I am very different in my viewpoint in that I am not satisfied with the type of reformation that is happening. I truly do not believe that it is equitable. I truly do not believe that it is balanced. Why I'm saying this is because of what I am seeing evolving or happening within the education system here, where with the advent of COVID, we are seeing inequities at the varying levels of education. Infant school children are having trouble logging on, mainly because of their socioeconomic background. Many of these parents of these children are very poor. And so the online platform that many of the times we hear advertised and being brandished and saying it is equipped, it is not. And so being in the system that I am in, the teachers of the early childhood sitting, they're having serious issues. Then we're looking at the primary level, where there is also a problem because I used to teach in the primary system and I still have contacts with persons who are still in the system. And as a result of that knowledge, they're telling me that if they have a class of 40 students, and that is the reality number here, 40 students, 15 would come. And it's not the same 15 that would turn up every day. And the same sort of situation occurs straight across the board. Those who are affluent have a chance to be part of the changing of the landscape in education. But those who are socioeconomically challenged are those who cannot be part of the reformation. They're part of being left behind. And that is where I stand, Daria. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lisette. There we have it, the intros from our three panelists. What I'd like to get into now is what specifically can make the change that would bring our societies into societies that are made up of citizens that are capable, that can move our societies forward, that can further develop our industries, that can further develop our people, their children. Ryan, what can we put in?
Delamay included a key term, adaptability, and Lisette spoke of the unpreparedness of the education system in Jamaica. And from that, I took away a term, systematic reform. Now, for any change is dependent on the location, because the experience that Lisette is having in Jamaica, I'm having a total different experience, or I've had a total different experience in the Cayman Islands, because the system here has been preparing for online access for maybe the past 3 or 4 years. So as soon as we were shut down for COVID, we quickly adapted to moving online, and we had over 95% of our students online. And that is a system that has been prepared and was ready and adapted quickly to the changes for online. Now, I think there needs to be a systematic audit of what society needs, what education system needs, and then align the curriculum offerings to meet the needs of society. Because whether we accept it or not, the curriculum must meet the needs of the society, because the children who are depending on the curriculum will be the drivers of the future, will be the leaders of tomorrow. If the curriculum isn't geared towards meeting societal needs, we're going to find that things are going to pass us by. We're going to remain stagnant. So if we want to move forward, if we want to move, we can be a third world country, but with first world vision, and our actions reflect those of first world. And that is a mindset. We cannot let the fact that we are from the Caribbean diminish us or hinder us from looking beyond our boundaries and putting systems in place. So some of these shortcomings that Lisette basically highlighted comes down to leadership. It comes down to the need for leaders to demand for systematic reform, and it comes down to leaders of the different schools too, because it takes just one candle to shed a light, and it starts there. So it comes down to leadership. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ryan. You brought forward a few points there that are essential. Not only is the curriculum needed alignment with the private sector and public sector drivers, but there needs also to be the vision. And yes, one leader will light that fire. I agree. Delamay, tell me, what else? We understand that the computer access, resources, online resources, that's one aspect of reform. That's one aspect. We all know that in the first world, there are third world components. In the third world, we know that there are first and second world components. Now, Lisette spoke to the discrepancies. Now, I want you, Delamay, to speak a little bit about what else is needed. Yes, curriculum change, but what specifically in the curriculum do we need to put in?
Right. I'm happy I got this part of the question because it ties back to something that you said in your first question. You were asking about how do we connect students or prepare students for the society that we live in. And I believe that that ties back to the mission, the vision, the philosophy of the individual educator in the school that they work for as to how they view their role in education. At one point in time, tertiary education may have been more about preparing students for acquisition of knowledge and for, you know, an academic lifestyle and the elite academics, but we are preparing the future workers, the workforce, and students to enter society. And we feel that a lot, particularly in our role as a community college, our students are exiting straight to the workforce with an associate degree or a very practical bachelor's degree. And when we survey our employers and to get feedback, many of them are not highlighting the technical aspects of the curriculum. They are looking at soft skills or 21st century skills in terms of communication, solution-oriented students. Can they solve a problem? Are they creative? Are they innovative? Are they taking initiatives? And they're looking at a lot of the soft skills. And so we have been challenged as to how do we weave these skills building components into all aspects of our technical curriculum. And how do we infuse these skill sets that are being asked for, these soft skills, into the attributes that we would like our graduates to display. I've seen a lot more conversation happening about this. I believe CARICOM really recently did something in which they established what they would like student attributes to look like when they complete their programming. And you would see the term 21st century skills buzzing around as well, that you want the employers and your students to display, that deals with that critical thinking, with creativity and the solution-oriented bits. So my perspective is whether you have access to top-of-the-line technology, or you're still scraping by with, you know, stuff from the 90s or the early 2000s, there are certain skill sets that we have to take the time to infuse into the training and into the teaching. And we have to train or teachers and or faculty members how to teach and how to assess that as well. And so that could happen on an individual level with a person who's decided to make a change in terms of their philosophy of education and how they deliver. It can happen at the institutional level, and it can also happen at the national level if the ministry decides to take a more holistic approach to ensuring that those skill sets are developed. That way, at least you'd have a smooth transition and a smooth building from elementary school all the way up. We see a huge gap between secondary and tertiary when the students jump over, and that's a gap that we not only have to try and fill, but we have to fill that gap quickly, get them to where they need to be to take them to the next level before they leave us. So that's my feedback.
Wonderful, Delamay. Now you took it a step further from Ryan, so thank you very much. 21st century skills, looking specifically at the development of the whole student, making sure that the whole person is ready for the society they're taking over and shaping. Now, Lizette, let's go even further. If I can ask, accounting, money management, taxes, keeping good credit, picking the right career, nutrition, self-defense, self-confidence, time management. Lizette, tell us a little bit about where these kinds of things fit into educating our young people for their future and for ours, for that matter.
I thank you, Daria. You have caught me completely off guard with this one because this is much to think about. Let me see if I can confabulate myself here carefully. Let me, all those that you have mentioned are areas that are being taught or being looked at, being examined by our education system. However, these come through the curriculum in different components, whether it be at the lower level of high school, the middle, or the upper level, or those who are in sixth form, who are going to specialize in these areas and so on. I believe that they all have their respective roles, but to say, I'm just looking to say, well, to have it structured in such a way to say, these are the things that are, these are your 9-point things that you must do for life. I am not sure if it can be marketed that way, but if it can be subliminally set by the stakeholders of education, especially those who are planning the curriculum and the pedagogical aspect of it, I'm sure it can work, because these seem to fall under life skills. Because if you look at it carefully, in terms of self-defense, based on what is happening in the world, the vulnerable need to know how to protect themselves. When it comes on to persons who are handling money, I would like to know that these persons are able to do their own accounting if they go into private business or even to work for someone. Anything. I believe that these may fall into the category of life skills, so that whatever situation they go into when they leave school, that they're able to adapt in this 21st century education system. Thank you.
Wonderful, Lizette. I know that question caught you off guard, and I thank you for your well thought out answer. Tell me something, Ryan and Delamay, as we wrap up, and Lizette, if you'd like to pop in here, tell me something. About 3 or 4 years ago, it couldn't be 5, I had a project where I worked with the credit union to have 8 and 9-year-olds understanding money, understanding finance, not from a perspective of saving or anything like that, from a perspective of understanding how money is made, how money is used, and how money can be invested. And this pilot project of 20 students, I believe it was, rolled out into 1,045, I believe, in schools around Barbados. It captivated the imaginations of the children. They were learning math, but they didn't understand the application of math. Do you think there's a role for non-governmental organizations, or what we call charities, or what we call service clubs in formal education?
Can I go first there?
Sure, Ryan.
No, that is where, as Lisette was talking, and I heard you spoke a while ago, the hidden curriculum just popped in my head. And the whole idea of contextualizing or teaching. And that is where children understand best and they relate to best when we contextualized their learning experiences. And if education move towards that pathway, then I'm sure our children will be able to not only be learning things because they want to pass an exam, but they see where that knowledge will be used or can be used or is being used by people out in the world or in different professions. And that is where you allow children now to be critical thinkers and discoverers, and even going beyond the realm of the classroom and creating new jobs, the jobs of the future. So to how best we allow the classroom context, incorporating the private and public sector into the classrooms, and using all of these resources along with proper research. Because what I find in the Caribbean is that we implement curriculum, but we do not do the due diligence of doing adequate research to see how that curriculum is best fitting for the population it's going to serve. So once we do our due diligence with proper research and aligning it with the needs of society, then I'm sure the whole contextualizing of the learning process will drive better results for the future.
Wonderful, Ryan. Thank you very much. Delamay?
Sure, I'm going to answer your question here about the clubs as well as the one you asked, Lizette, because they tie together for me. The question about, whether we should incorporate budgeting or health and nutrition ties back to what we think of as the role of education, as the role of schools. Those are important parts of, I think, a society's well-being. In Trinidad and Tobago, we have, the leading cause of death is lifestyle diseases, heart conditions, and diabetes. That also detracts from an employee's ability to contribute on the job when they're ill, often ill. And so the question is this, and how do we get teachers to take time away from the curriculum that they must deliver towards an exam to teach about these types of things? I think that therefore there is a role for clubs to come in and supplement the educational experience that the students experience on a day-to-day, while allowing the teachers to focus on some of the curriculum that is needed for standardization.
Mm-hmm. Concise. Very good. Thank you very much. Lizette?
Yes, I want to approach my response in the form of a story, something that actually happened in primary school, and that is in the 70s, so I'm well aged. I remember various clubs, savings clubs that we had here in Jamaica. Jamaica National was leading at the time, sorry, when they had Junior Savings Club. I was a member. Many of us as small children, we had to have our parents sign up this consent form for us to drop in our money and so on. Looking back while listening to the question, it just reminded me of how much it had taught us to save and how much it made us to become responsible persons. I'm saying that to say that it must have been some sort of collaboration or conversation between the varying stakeholders to look at what way we can help our children to learn. And so the informal education would come in, but it would only take place if the leadership would allow it. So therefore, I'm just saying that there is a role for the clubs and societies that can help concretize whatever that is being taught in the curriculum. Yes, there are gaps, and I believe that there needs to be some sort of reform to look at these issues, the gaps, and instead of looking at this problem, solving problems from a top-down approach, that it should involve every single one in the equation to make this education of ours relevant, applicable, and actually successful in the 21st century.
Thank you very much, Lizette. You wrapped it up and tied it all together. There are many issues and passions in the Caribbean that we have to take into account as we train and hone our little people, our young people. And there are all kinds of resources available to us to bring about a citizenry that we are proud to call tomorrow's leaders. Thank you very much, Ryan Dale and Lizette Hawthorne and Delamay Wilson, who had to leave just a minute ago. I thank you for your time. I thank you for your thoughts. I thank you for your passion. And back over to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Daria. Thank you very much, Delamay, Lizette, Ryan. That was interesting to me. I'm a retired high school science teacher, and the issues you're raising, the discussion that you're bringing up, the points you're raising are the very same ones that we have happening here in North Carolina. It's the very same ones we have happening throughout the US. We have economic divides in our schools. We have differences of opinion about what it means to be educated. And it's interesting to hear your take on that because you're really touching universal problems in education. And I appreciate you bringing those to the forefront the way you have.